Alright, it's been a while since I did a video, so I thought I'd do another one. And now that the market is bullish and we've got quite a bit to talk about here, I want to talk about Solana's price here, which is something that I've been looking at for ages now, trying to follow it closely, trying to understand what's going on. And I want to share something really interesting here. So first of all, the price is trading at $153.74. Of course, the high we've had this year was all the way up to like 187.50 or 60, close to 188 here, only to come back down, right? So when we came down, of course, we were looking quite bearish, but overall, the structure was still bullish. Okay, so even though it was looking bearish, because this is a huge drop, so anyone would think, oh, damn, we're going down back to $100 or worse. Anyone who had trading experience would know that this is not the case yet, right? And why do I say that? So what we had here was on the uptrend, we had a higher high, we had a higher low, then we had a higher high, and then we had a higher low. Again, this is not a higher low, okay? This is very important. So on a wider time frame, if you look at it, actually, this isn't even a higher high and a higher low. It's this higher high and this higher low, because this low is higher than this low. Okay, so this is how it looks. Okay, if you want to look at the structure, of course, this could have actually tricked many people into thinking we've got this higher high here, then we've got this higher low, and then we've got a higher high, but then we've got a lower low here. So that means that we're changing the character and we could be going bearish. And in fact, what happened here is we went low again, but we didn't actually break below this low. So that's the key aspect here that many traders are missing. And it's something that you learn when you learn about smart money concepts, which is something I've been studying intensively in the last month. And I really love it. There's a lot to unpack when it comes to smart money concepts. And if you put in the time, you can become a profitable trader if you follow the strategy and are just patient. So we've got this key level. Now, if this key level, if it's broken, then we're going to get a possible market structure shift. And here, as you can see, because we didn't actually break this low, we actually went bullish and went boom. And this was inducement, okay? This was inducement by the big players trying to make us think that we're going to go down, only to take it really, really high. And of course, they managed to get a lot of liquidity here from all the people trying to go short. They were just like, yes, we're loving this. We're buying this at a discount. So then what happened? After we had this massive pump, we started that downtrend on the lower time frames, but on the 1 hour time frame, we're still in the uptrend, because as you can see here, we have this low here, okay? So assuming that this was a downtrend, so we had a lower high, lower low, of course, the same up here. Assuming this was a downtrend, as you can see, the lower low is actually higher than this higher low here. So what this means is that on a larger time frame, not on this specific time frame, but on a larger time frame, then that would mean that we are still in an uptrend because we didn't go below this low. When we break below $40 and 20 something cents, then that is when you can be worried. But what happened here? So on the 15-minute chart, we can get a better idea, a better picture here of what's going on. Okay, we were going down, we're getting really bearish here, as you can see. All hope was lost, and then we had this lower high here, and then we've got this lower low, which is very low, right? We had a huge liquidity sweep here. And then what happened here is we had a change of character. A change of character means that the high is actually bigger than the previous lower high. So the new high that the market has put in is breaking past the previous lower high. So basically like a higher high. So that doesn't necessarily mean that this is a break of structure. This is just a change of character, because this is on the first attempt. It doesn't guarantee that the structure is going to be getting bullish, but it does give us some kind of insight that perhaps the market is ready to switch on the lower time frame as well, because on the lower time frame we're extremely bearish. I mean, on the 15-minute you could see that, also on the 5-minute, on the 1 minute, absolutely terrible, really, really bearish action until we got to this point. And so what happened here is, as you can see, on Friday we actually pumped and we broke all these previous lower highs here. So we broke a lot of structure here. We swept liquidity. And after we swept liquidity here, this was on Friday, you can see we've made a higher low. Okay, why do I say higher low? Because we didn't go below this low. Okay, so that is the market structure. That is the concept. Now this confirmed to us that we are now bullish because we saw this pump here. Of course, we weren't 100% sure yet, but we had a liquidity sweep here, which gave us quite a high probability, probably more than 50%, that we were switching trend there. And as you can see here, we did go back down here. And the reason we did that is because we went into an order block. Okay, you need to look up the concepts order blocks, but basically order blocks is the area where institutions or large players, in the case of crypto, it's mostly large players like big players, people with a lot of money, smart money. They usually place a lot of buy orders at a discount, and so they found a discount in this area, mostly because we had liquidity accumulated here. So they had an order block here, as you can see, where all the large orders were placed. They accumulated, they pumped the price, then the price retested this order block to probably fill unfilled orders, okay, and then they started going up. And we have put in a higher high here. As you can see, this was yesterday. All the way up to 152.91, and this is the reason why I marked it here with previous day high, also the high of 2 days ago, which was broken. And then we started to pull back, and as you can see, this pullback is quite deep, right? You could argue it's probably a bit deeper than this pullback that we had here from Friday to Saturday, right? But once again, look at this. Where are we? Well, it's a higher low. Okay, we are above this area here, and as you can see, there was a lot of liquidity around this area here. It started building up, and because of all this liquidity building up, this actually managed to hold quite well. The big players said, you know, this is a good area, let's get in. And so as soon as I saw this confirmation here, because if we look on the 1 minute time frame, we can actually see that there was a liquidity sweep. Even on the 15 minute, you can see there was a liquidity sweep around this key area here. You could see when there's a wick like this and a huge red bar and everyone is super bearish, they're thinking, oh damn, we're going down, and that is when we should get greedy. Of course, not in every case, but at key areas. Okay, it's very important to have key areas here. As you can see, this is a key area because this is the area here, this order block where institutions bought the last time, and we did push to that area. We went back down, but then we managed to push to the upside from this area. So this is where we actually took off. So there was some liquidity around here. And this is the reason why the price reached this area here to capture this liquidity. And then we got the change of character again. Okay, so change of character, what's that? Well, when we're breaking the last lower high. Okay, because we were getting bearish here again. This is again on the 15 minute. You can see that we're getting bearish on the 15 minute. On the 1 minute, you can see even more clearly. But we had this higher high, then we had a higher low, and then we had another lower high, then a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and lower low. And then we had another lower high and then a huge lower low here. And so when we broke this is the change of character right here. Actually, when we broke it with this candle. So when we had this candle basically told us, okay, that's it. We're changing character. We're going back up. So what do? We look for an area of interest. And what do we have? We've got a fair value gap here. And again, like I said, I'm not going to talk about the fair value gaps and order blocks in detail, but in short, order blocks are areas where institutions or big players place their buy orders or sell orders in the case of selling. The supply and demand areas. This is a demand area. At the top, it's usually a supply area. And so what happened here is as soon as we broke above this area here and we have the change of character, the price pulled back a bit, right? So we need to look for an area to enter. And a fair value gap is basically an area where the first candle doesn't overlap with the third candle. And then we have a space in between in that middle candle. So here you can see we've got a little bit of a gap here and the price got exactly to that gap. To basically get unfilled orders, because what happens is this area acts like a magnet. Any fair value gap on any chart, you can check this, acts as a magnet, but only in certain areas, not everywhere. Of course, it has to be a key area because as you can see, we do have a fair value gap here where we've got the order block, but the price only touched it a little bit here, right? Just a tiny bit, as you can see, a week below it, but it didn't get to the middle of it, and it didn't retest the order block either. So this order block is actually unmitigated, which means at some point in the future, this could be retested again. And perhaps we may see some sort of bounce around it, but it's not for sure, right? Depends how far the price goes up. And so what happened here is I actually entered before that because I watched this area and I thought, you know, this is the area where we managed to push the last time. So I'm going to wait and see if we're going to get a liquidity sweep, and we did. Then as soon as I saw the confirmation of the green bars here, I said, I'm going aggressive on this. I'm getting in. I placed my stop below the week just to be safe. I gave it a little bit of room. And I managed to get a really nice entry here, and it's patience that's the killer here, right? Because once you get this kind of move here, you're thinking, oh damn, I really want to sell. So I decided to trail my take profit areas rather than just exit completely the specific target, because I could have targeted the high, right? Because we could assume that it'll probably get to at least this high, so I'm gonna make good money on that. But instead, what I decided to do was I decided to set take profit area. So I've got this one here. After taking out this area where we've got a lot of liquidity here, I thought, it's good to get something out here. I got a third out here. Then I got more at the second take profit area here. Then I got more here on the third, and then more on the fourth. And then I kept a little bit for this very last entire area here to take profit. And I chose this area here because this is a 15-minute order block, a bearish order block, which I had marked before, where big players entered here for shorting, right? Why do I say that? Well, it's because look at this huge bar here. This is a huge fair value gap that was triggered by this order block here on the 15-minute chart. And I've marked it because I knew this area would be of interest when we go back up. And as you can see, we did. Okay, we did retest this area after this huge dump that we've had here. We did retest this area, and what's interesting is that the price is kind of struggling inside this order block now. So I think that if it doesn't break this order block today, I think we're going to be pulling back, and we're going to see another pullback. We're not sure exactly. I need to do more digging into it because I haven't had a chance to dig into it properly, but I do expect it to probably pull back to around this area here because we've got a lot of liquidity built around here. Perhaps it'll pull back to maybe just below this area before pushing back up. So maybe expect anything between 150 and 50 cents all the way here to 149.50 or 149.40. I mean, we could expect this area to be tested for the pullback if we don't go higher. Okay, if we go higher, then the higher low is probably going to be a higher level. It could even be here like 150.70 because we do have some liquidity here. But it depends how high we go, right? If we get to the next order block, and this is the 1 hour order block that I marked here, and this is from 4 days ago on the 4th of June when this was created. It's a 1 hour unmitigated order block here, which could mean that we may be seeing the price get to this area as well. Maybe not today, like I said, perhaps tomorrow. It might have enough strength after that pullback and then push to the upside here, or perhaps later today if there's enough demand in the market when we take out this order block and perhaps pull to this area. It depends on the pullback. If the pullback is going to be small and we have a lot of buyer strength, perhaps we can see it test this order block here between $156.50 and $170.67. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the market reacts when it gets to this. But like I said, just from my personal thought, I think that we're not going to get to this order block today. Of course, the market can do what it wants, right? Many things could happen. I think we're going to be exhausted because we had quite a pump today all the way from here, right? It was quite a big move. But again, in crypto, once things get bullish, anything can happen. So yeah, I took this trade here. Like I said, I got out at this would have been a 12 hour if I had taken the full trade and waited until take profit. But I ended up being a 6 hour because I got out at different stages here just to be safe. I've also moved my stop to different areas here under the structure just to lock in that profit, because there's nothing more painful than seeing your profits go away when the trade goes against you. And it can happen, right? This kind of strategy works maybe 50% of the time, but if you stick to it, it can be profitable as long as your risk to reward is at least 3 or at the very least 3 or, right? Then if you keep repeating this with a 50% win rate, you can do really well with at least 3 or. But as you can see, we could have gotten a 12 or on this. Of course, this doesn't happen all the time, but you could definitely get like 4 or 5 or based on this strategy, if you want to be more conservative, and then close your trade at 5 or maybe, if you don't feel comfortable waiting for this to run all the way. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about in today's video. We'll have to watch and see how the price goes in the coming days. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.